and record it. Okay, here we go. And so, guys, here in my lab, if I click on assignments, you're going to see that everything is open, and they're all due on July the 8th at 8 o'clock, okay? So the only thing it isn't, obviously, like the midterm, right? And this is just me, like I didn't take my midterm itself. But notice over here on the quizzes, it says like out of 5 attempts, right? So I haven't taken any of the quizzes either, but it's 0 out of 5, right? So all the quizzes you have 5 attempts total. And again, the review for the final is right here. So you still got plenty of time, guys, to improve your grade. If there's something you weren't happy with, you know that you can always, fix that. And any particular homework assignment you did, if you didn't get 100 on it, you can go back and just do those problems that you missed. For the quizzes, you have to take the entire quiz again. So there was only only missed one problem. You actually have to take the whole quiz again, but you have a total of 5 attempts, okay? So again, I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on that. And then give me one quick second, and I'm gonna pull something up here, and I'll share that with you guys as well. Where are we? Here we go. Okay. And let's see. Pretty sure this is us here. Let's see. I'm just getting my notes together, guys. All right, so let me see. Let me stop sharing that page with you guys. And let's see, guys, because I know some of you guys just logged in. Let me see. Let me do this one more time because I want to make sure everybody's good. So, guys, all I'm doing here is I'm in our Blackboard page. And I'm glad you all are here today. It's good to see you guys. So if I click here, guys, under week 5, so again, what I have, number one, I opened up the review for the final exam. It's got 40 questions. The final exam, guys, is going to have 20 questions on it. Okay, they come directly out of the review. And then there's 2 days that I'm going to be doing the final, guys. So I'm going to do it either on Wednesday the 7th at 11 a.m. and Thursday the 8th at 6 o'clock. You're going to pick the time that works best for you, okay? And then there's a sign-up sheet right here. I'll send out the links, guys, for the sessions for the final next week, and we won't be using Zoom because those of you who took the final the last time, if you remember, those of you who were in the second session, I don't remember when we did it. I think it was the morning session, I'm pretty sure. But we had to kind of keep logging into Zoom, and it was kind of a pain. So we're going to use something else called Microsoft Teams, but it works just like Zoom. You don't have to do anything, and it doesn't kick us out after a certain period of time, okay? The other thing is I did reopen up every single assignment in my lab that we've had. So, guys, if there's any homework problems that you didn't finish, you can always go back and finish them. For the quizzes, I did extend each of the attempts to 5. So if you had already taken it twice and you still weren't happy with the grade, you know that you still got another 3 shots at it, okay? So anyway, just kind of wanted to give you that info right there. And then what I wanted to do today, y'all, since I have quite a few of you here, was before I do anything new, does anyone have any questions about homework or deadlines or anything? Anything at all, y'all? Nothing. Okay, so no, not Belma, you're good. Okay, So guys, what I wanted to do this afternoon was, give me one quick second. I just want to make sure everybody's good here. Awesome. Okay. So what I wanted to do this afternoon, y'all, is go over some new material from chapter 15. This is the last, couple of sections. All right, Marlene, I'm good. I'm glad this is good for you too. I wanted to go over chapter 15 a little bit just to make sure that we're all, doing okay with it. This is the last bit of material for the semester. Like I said, guys, our class, there's a limited amount of material because this is just getting you guys what we call TSI ready so that you can continue with your degree plan and graduate, because you guys don't need a math course for your program. Okay, so so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen with you guys so y'all can see this. Let's see, here we go. Awesome. Okay, so I think this is coming up now. Yeah, it looks like it is. Okay, so guys, chapter 15 is all about square roots, right? And so there's other roots out there, but for our purposes, we're only going to deal with square roots. And so what square roots really mean is square roots mean we're grouping in pairs, okay? So sets of two. So if I were to ask you, what's the square root of 16? The answer should be 4. And you might say, well, why? Why is it 4? Because 4 times 4 gives me 16, right? So I'm looking for the same number when I multiply it by itself is going to give me the answer inside the square root, And let me see if I can pull something up here. It'll take me a little while so I can find it. I'm just kind of going through my slides. But I know it's here, or at least I thought it was. It is. It's just somewhere a little further. And here we go. Okay, so guys, I put this in like the one of the first week folders that we had, but I do have a multiplication table for you guys here. And the nice thing about this multiplication table is that along the main diagonal, we have all of our perfect squares, right? So I'll even upload it again before the night is over so that you guys can have one, okay? But I'll upload it up again. But those are all the perfect squares, right? So when I'm coming back to my notes, right, and I'm going to kind of scroll all the way back down to where we were. This one, here we go. And I might say, okay, what's the square root of 64? The square root of 64 is going to be 8, okay? And if I have a fraction, guys, I'm going to just do it in pieces. I'm going to think about it as the square root of 1 over the square root of 25. So the square root of 1 is 1, and the square root of 25 is 5. Same thing here. I can think about this as the square root of 1 over the square root of 64. So that's going to be 1 over 8, right? And this is all I'm really doing. I'm just trying to find my square roots, okay? So this is the square root of 9 over the square root of 25. So the top, that's going to give me a 3, and the bottom, that's going to give me a 5. And then I'm going to ask you guys a question here. Anybody know off the top of your head what is the square root of 4? What's the square root of the top number? Anybody know? If you know it, you can just throw it in the chat box. There you go, 2. All right, perfect. Guys, what about the square root of 81? Anyone know? And let's see, I heard something, but somebody typed something. Let me come back and check. There you go. You got it. Very good. You got it. Take it away. And Jenny Canales says, all right, good. So that's all I'm really doing here with these problems, okay? Now, guys, I want you to notice the next 2 problems. I know that it's a little faded. I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. But this one here has a negative on the outside, okay? So the way I do this problem is forget about the negative for right now. If I just have the square root of 36, that would just give me 6, right? But since there's a negative on the outside, I'm just going to tack on the negative in my, oh, come on, 10. Here we go. In my answer, okay? So there's a negative on the outside, just attach the negative with it. Now, there's a difference in that problem and this problem here. This one has the negative, if you notice, on the inside, right? So if we said, what's the square root of negative 4? Suppose we thought the answer was 2, okay? And then we were to come back and say, well, why? Well, we would have to say that 2 times 2, oh, well, look, that gives me 4, and I have a negative 4 in there, right? So I know it's not 2. So if we said, well, what about negative 2? And then we said, well, what's negative 2 times another negative 2? Well, that's also going to give me positive 4. And the only way that I'm going to get a negative 4 here, y'all, is if I do a negative 2 times a positive 2, that'll give me a negative 4. But now I notice that those two numbers aren't the same, okay? So if I have a negative on the inside, what we say is that this here is not a real number. We don't actually say no solution. We just say it's not a real number. And at any point in time, if you guys do decide to go and take college algebra, then we'll talk about what those kind of numbers are, but they're not real numbers, okay? So it's okay for us to have a negative on the outside. This is good. We don't want to have a negative on the inside, okay? That's kind of the point of that little story there. Let's see, I heard something in the chat here. Let's see, come back over here. So when the negative's on the inside, it's not a real number. That's right. So if there is a negative inside, we say not a real number. But if the negative is on the outside, just take the square root of the number and attach the negative. Oops. So very good. You're correct. Alrighty. So let's see. I'm just going to kind of keep scrolling on here. All right. So guys, remember what we said about square roots? Square roots, we said, were grouping in pairs, right? So sets of 2. So for these problems here, it says find each root and assume all variables represent non-negative numbers. Okay, so we're trying to take the square root of y to the 10th. So I want to write out, remember what y to the 10th means. It means that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whew, that's a lot of y's. Okay, and remember what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get pairs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pairing them up. And guys, once I pair them up, I want you to tell me how many pairs do you think we have. So look, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. Here's another one. How many pairs did we have here? Anybody know how many circles did I draw up there? That's right, we had 5 of them. Perfect. Very good. So my answer here is going to be y to the 5th. Okay. Now, guys, you're not going to have to do this every single time. You're not going to have to write out, suppose I had y to the 108. I don't want you to write 108. Now, we call this square roots, right? And even though I don't see it here, the way these numbers are really written, like this y to the square root of y to the 10th, the number that's really here is a 2 because it's the square root. You just don't write it, okay? So what I'm really doing here is I'm taking this number 10 and I'm dividing it by 2, right? So 10 divided by 2 gives us 5, and that's why my answer was y to the 5th. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing here. Remember, the number really here is 2. So 2 goes into 4, what, twice? So my answer is going to be x to the power of 2. So again, what I'm doing is I'm taking my power and I'm dividing it by the root, okay? So look, let me show you how I'm going to do these next ones. I'm going to do this one here in pieces, okay? I'm going to write it like this. The square root of 9 divided by the square root of x to the 8th. Now remember, we already know that the square root of 9 is going to give us 3. And the number here, even though I don't see it, really is a 2. So I'm going to say 2 goes into 8 4 times. Okay? So what I'm trying to do in these problems, guys, is break them down into smaller pieces, right? Pieces that I know I can break them down into. Right? So I'll do the same thing here. Look, the square root of 36, square root of x to the 12. Okay? So I know the square root of 36, that's going to give me 6. And I know I'm going to have an x. And again, my power here is 2. So 2 goes into 12 6 times, right? Okay. So let's do this one here, and I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions. Okay. So anybody know what is the square root of 81? What's the, yes, Marlene, it's always going to be a 2 because we're talking about the square root since we're getting pairs. Yes, ma'am, it's always going to be a 2. Anyone know what's the square root of 81?
9.
9, perfect. So right here, guys, we're going to write a 9, right? Okay, now, how many times, I'm going to put an X, how many times does 2 go into 2? Anybody know?
Once.
There you go, once. So that just means that the power of my X is going to be a 1. Now, guys, you don't have to write the power of 1. You can just leave it that way, right? Because even though I don't write it, the power that's understood to be there really is a 1. Now, the one thing I'll tell you, when you're doing this on your paper, if you're doing this on paper, you can write the 1. But I want to say that when you put this in my lab, they're going to ask you for the answer like this, okay? They'll ask you, don't put the 1. But yes, to answer your question, is it always going to be a 2? Yes, because since we're talking about square roots, we're grouping in pairs, okay? And so, guys, I'm going to kind of just do a little sidetrack here in a second. But let's do this one here. So look, remember, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to write an X, and I'm going to write a Y. And then we're going to figure out where our powers are. So remember, we're taking those exponents and we're dividing them both by 2. So how many times does 2 go into 12? Anyone know? Six. Perfect. You got it. So we're going to put a 6 here. And then what about into 20? How many times does 2 go into 20? There you go. You got it. Very good, guys. Okay. So, guys, Marlene's question, is it always going to be a 2? For our purposes, Marlene, it's always going to be a 2 because in our class, all we're dealing with is square roots. I'm going to kind of show you all something. This is just kind of like on the side, right? This here, y'all, is what we call a cube root, okay? Now, notice the number that I have here. And again, I'm just kind of showing you this just so that you have an idea. But a cube root now means we're grouping in terms of 3. So instead of getting pairs, what we want to get is we want to get triples, okay? So what does that mean? That means like if I take the number 125, what can I divide it by? Well, I know I can at least divide it by 5 because it ends in a 5. So this is going to be 5 and 25. And then I know I can break down 25 again. I can break that into 5 and 5. So I want you all to notice something here. Look what we have. We have a triple. So the cubic root of 125 would be 5. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take this number and I'm going to divide it by 3 because that's the number that I have over here. So 3 goes into 12 4 times. And so the cubic root of 125x to the 12th would be 5x to the 4th. And the only reason I'm showing you this, guys, is so that in the event that some of you change your major and at some point you need to go take college algebra, you're going to see more than square roots. You'll see like cube roots and you might see fourth roots or whatever. But again, the idea is whatever number you have here, you're grouping in terms of that number. So if it's a 3, you're getting triples, right? If it's a 4, you're getting sets of 4. If it's like a 7, you're getting sets of 7. That's all it is you're really doing, okay? But I kind of just wanted to show y'all that, just so that you know that there's things other than square roots. But for our purposes, guys, all we're doing are square roots, okay? So let's come back with some square roots. So first thing I'm going to do here, the square root of 16 I know is 4. And then remember what it is we're doing. We're taking our exponents and we're dividing them by 2. So 2 goes into 6 3 times and 2 goes into 4 twice. Okay. And we'll do the same thing here. So let's see. Anybody know what's the square root of 4? Anybody know the square root of 4? There you go. 2. Okay, perfect. And then how many times does 2 go into 14? Anybody know how many times? There you go, 7. Excellent, good. And one more, guys. How many times 2 go into 2? Perfect, once. And guys, remember, we don't need to write the 1, so we'll just leave it like that, okay? Alrighty. So notice, for the next one here, y'all, I'm going to do exactly the same thing, okay? I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to think about this, and I'm going to separate it. X to the 6 over the square root of 36, okay? So we already know the square root of 36 is 6, and then 2 goes into 3, or 2 goes into 6, I'm sorry, 3 times, right? All right. So on this last one here, anybody know what's the square root of 49? What do y'all think? Square root of 49? Anybody got an idea? Don't be shy. Very good. 7. Perfect. Good. Excellent. And then, how many times does 2 go into 8? There you go. Very good. Perfect. Excellent, y'all. And that's it. Y to the 4th over 7. Okay, so this is what square roots is all about. Square roots, guys, again, square roots is all about getting pairs because we are grouping in terms of 2, right? That's what we're looking for here. Okay. So look, I want to go through the next section, guys. This material here, this chapter 15, goes pretty quickly, so we'll probably be able to knock out 2 sections tonight. Okay. So we'll finish up with this one here, but look what it says, the product rule. So it says use the product rule to simplify. So here's my product rule right here. And all it's saying is that the square root of A times B is the same thing as the square root of A times the square root of B. Okay, so remember what we're doing here. We're looking for pairs. Okay. So what does that mean I'm trying to do? I'm going to break down this number. So when I break down the number 20, I have a lot of options. I can say 20 is, I don't know, 2 times 10. Now I can't break down 2, so I'm going to circle that, but we can break down 10 into 2 and 5. Notice what we have here, guys. We got a pair of 2's. And since the square root means we're getting pairs, that means that the number that I'm gonna write is gonna be 2 because I have a pair of 2's. Now, if you notice this 5, there's only one of them. What that means is that the 5 stays inside the square root. The only way that the numbers can come outside of the little square root symbol is if we have a pair of them, okay? Now, one thing I want to point out, guys, and I'm going to do this over here on the side, square root of 20, right? Problem did. And I said, when I broke down 20, I broke it down using 2 and 10, and then we took 10 and did 2 and 5. So you might say, okay, well, what happens if I decide to use 4 and 5? We can do that too. Now, we can't break down 5, so I'm going to circle it, but I can break down 4 into 2 and 2. There's a pair. What do we have a pair of? We have a pair of 2's. Which one is not paired up? The 5. So it has to stay back inside the house, right? And if you notice, the answer that we got right here is the same answer that we came up with over here. So how you break your numbers down is not really important. You're going to get the same answer either way, okay? So let's try this next one here. Let's try 44. Now, when I think of 44, I think of 4 and 11. And I know I cannot break up 11, but we can break up 4 into 2 and 2. So here's my pair. So I'm going to have 2 on the outside, and then on the inside is going to be the 11. Okay. So again, the one thing I really want to emphasize, guys, is the pair. Whatever number we have a pair of, that's the number that comes outside. I don't bring them both out. I just bring the number that we have that's paired up. Okay. All right. What about 50? I might think of, say, 5 and 10. And I cannot break down 5. The 10 I can break down into 2 and 5. So notice, those are paired up. That number is coming outside. Which one is staying inside? The 2. Okay. All right. Guys, I'm going to ask you all the question. I'm going to ask you to break this one down for me. Okay? And just break down the number 28. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you all what number, when we break down 28, do we have a pair of? So when you break down 28, if you keep breaking it down, we have good. Okay, so said who you put 4, but we have a pair of 2s. Okay, so the number that we actually have a pair of, we have a pair of 2s, right? So the number that we have a pair of is the number 2. That's right. So over here, y'all, I'm going to put down the 2. That's the number that came outside. What number did we not have a pair of? Anybody know what was the other number? 7. There you go, you guys. Guys, perfect. So yes, so guys, think about it this way. 28, you say, look, it's 2 and 14, and that's 2 and 7. There's your 2s, here's your 7, and you got it. Take it away. You guys are doing great. Perfect. Very good. All right. So look, let's take a look at this next one here. We're going to do it in pieces. So 21. 21, the only numbers besides 1 and 21 that multiply to 21 are 3 and 7. But if you notice, I can't break down 3 and I can't break down 7. So I don't have any pairs. So what we're going to do, y'all, we're going to leave it as it is. That part right there, guys, is already simplified. The square root of 21 is already simplified, so we can't actually simplify it anymore. Okay, when you're doing your homework, y'all, here out of this section, whatever it is, like intro to radicals or simplifying radicals, that's going to be one of your options in my lab, is to select, like it's already simplified, or you'll just, type in the same thing. You might have one problem like that, okay? Most of them you're going to be able to break them down, all right? All right, let's take a look here. So square root of 98. Okay, so 98, I know it's even, so that means I can at least divide it by 2, and that's going to give me 2 and 49, and I can't break down 2, but we can break down 49 into 7 and 7. So again, guys, I just really want to emphasize this, that it's whatever the number that we have a pair of, that's the number that comes outside, and the number that stays inside, is the 2, okay? All right. So let's take a look at this next one here. It's 3 square roots of 25. So the 3 is already on the outside. I'm going to leave that alone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the square root of 25. Square root of 25, 5 and 5. So my answer here is going to be 3 times 5, because this number was able to come outside of the square root. And 3 times 5 is just going to leave me with 15. So what that means, y'all, is if there's a number outside in the front, it's being multiplied by whatever we're going to get in our answer. Okay? So for this next problem, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to write down my 7 over here. And I know I'm going to multiply it by something. And then when I take the square root of 63, when I think of 63, I think of 9 and 7. And I know I can't break down 7, but I can break down 9 into 3 and 3. So notice what I have a pair of 3s, so that comes outside, but this guy has to stay back inside. And then we're just going to multiply here, so 7 times 3 is 21 square root of 7. Okay. And I'll do the same thing here for this next one. So look, negative 5, that's going to stay there. I'm going to break this guy down. So 27. 27 is 3 and 9. I can't break down 3, but we can break down 9 into 3 and 3. So notice again, what do we have a pair of? We have a pair of 3s, but this guy didn't get to go outside. It's got to stay back in there, okay? Because we can only take them out if they can be paired up. And so now when we multiply, negative 5 times 3 is a negative 15 times the square root of 3. Okay. Alrighty. So look, let's do the same thing for this next one here. So we'll carry our negative 6 on the outside. 75. Remember, we're trying to break this guy down. So when I think of 75, guys, I don't know. I think about money. So I think about 3/4, so 3 and 25 cents. And I can't break down 3, but we can break down 25 into 5 and 5. So notice what we have. We have a pair of 5s, right? So that 5 is going to come outside. And then the 3 is going to come indoors. And we're just going to multiply those two together and give us a negative 30 times the square root of 3. All right. So now the next one here, quotient rule. We're doing the same thing. We're simplifying. We're going to separate our fractions, okay? So we're going to write it like this. We're going to say, look, this is a space over the square root of 25. All right. So I'm going to ask you all a question, y'all. What is the square root of 25? Because I know you know that one. Anybody know the square root of 25? What y'all think? There you go, 5. Perfect. Okay. So what I'm going to do right here, y'all, I'm going to write a 5 right there. Okay, now we're going to fix the square root of 8. So remember, the square root of 8, I'm going to break that down. That's 2 and 4. That's 2 and 2. So the number I have a pair of is 2, but this guy is not paired up, so it's going to go back on the inside. So my answer is going to be 2 square root of 2 all over 5. Okay? And we'll do exactly the same thing here. Look, we'll rewrite this as the square root of 63 over the square root of 16. Does anybody know what's the square root of 16? And there you go. Perfect. 4. Excellent. So 4 is going to go right here. Now, we're going to simplify the square root of 63. So remember, we said this is 7 times 9. And 9 is 3 times 3. So I have a pair of 3s, and then this 7 has to stay on the inside. So my answer is 3 square root of 7 all over 4. Okay. So look, guys, I'm going to do something real quick. Let me see here. Oh, let's see. Let me try something here. And that's it. 1 second. Pull this up. Here we go. Okay, so let me do this. All right. So what I'm doing here, y'all, I am pulling the problem directly from the homework so we can see how this is going to work. Okay. So guys, I pulled this problem directly out of our homework. And okay, so it says use the quotient rule and the product rule to simplify the radical. All right, so let's see what we can do here. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to write a new problem. I'm going to rewrite this as the square root of 147 over the square root of 100. Okay. So The square root of 100, guys, I already know that's going to be 10, right? Because 10 times 10 gives me 100. Now, what I got to do is I got to figure out 147. How could I break this down? Well, I know I can divide it by 7 because 7 goes into 14 twice and 7 goes into 7 once. So I can't break down this 7 at all, but I can break down the 21. So the 21, I know I can break it down into 3 and 7. And so if you notice here, I have a pair of 7s. Then the 3 is going to stay on the inside. So my answer would be 7 square root of 3 over 10. And if I stop sharing my screen here, and I share, let's see, where I came up with, oops, that's something wrong. There we go. And so, guys, again, I just pulled this problem directly out of my homework, right? So I'm going to say 7, and then the square root of 3, okay, all over, oh, let me fix that. So let me do the fraction first. Okay, so 7, and then square root of 3, there we go. And then I'm going to put the 10 on the bottom. I can get there. There we go. And here's my 10, and I'm going to chickadee check, and we got it done, right? So, okay, so I just wanted to kind of do this here so you guys can kind of get the idea of what it is I was doing. So let me come back, and we will do a couple more because we're almost done here with this section. So let's see. Yeah, there's just a couple more. So let's go ahead and knock these out here. So again, I'm going to think about this as the square root of 27 over the square root of 121. And guys, again, one more time, let's see if I can find it. Here we go. If I look here at my chart, right, here's 121. Square root of 121 is going to give me 11. Okay. So again, really what I'm trying to do with a lot of these problems, y'all, is just find the square root, right, using my chart. You can use your calculator as well, guys, but the chart's like super easy to do. And then 27. So remember, 27, I know I can break that into 3 and 9. And 9 is 3 and 3. So look, we have a pair of 3s. And then this 3 has to stay on the inside and the 11. Okay. And I will do exactly the same thing here. I'm going to think about this as the square root of 11 over the square root of 36. So I know the square root of 36 is 6. Guys, I cannot break down the 11. So that 11 is just going to stay there with the square root on it, okay? Because 11 is one of those prime numbers, right? It doesn't break down besides itself anymore. Okay? All right. And so we'll do the same thing here. So look, what I'm going to do with this problem, y'all, is I'm going to keep my negative on the outside. Here's my 27. And here's my 144. So again, if I were to go back and use my chart, the square root of 144 is going to leave me with a 12. And we just did the square root of 27 right up here at the top. And that was 3 square roots of 3. The only thing I need to do, I need to carry my negative. 3 square root of 3. And then now guys, the last part is I'm going to reduce my fraction. 3 and 12 can reduce. So that's going to leave me with a negative square root of 3, and then 3 goes into 12 4 times, okay? Alrighty. So let's do the same thing here. The negative, I got the square root of 84 over the square root of 121. So again, I know the square root of 121 is going to leave me with 11. And what I have to do now is I have to break down 84. So I don't know, that's going to be 2 and 42, it looks like. And that's going to be 2 and 21. And then 21 is 7 and 3. But the only numbers that are actually paired up here, y'all, are those 2s. So both of these numbers have to go back on the inside. And when they go back on the inside, it's really just the same thing as 21, okay? All right. So now let's figure out what we're going to do when we have problems like this, like x to the 7th and x to the 13th. Remember what we said we're getting here? We're getting pairs, right? So look, x to the 7th means there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to start pairing them up. Look, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3 pairs, so there's an x to the 3rd. This guy did not get paired up. So what does that mean? It's got to stay on the inside, okay? And again, guys, I'm doing this part here because it's visual and y'all can see it, but I don't expect you to draw the pictures every time. I mean, you can if you want to, but obviously if you have a big exponent, you probably don't want to. Remember what we said the number was here? The number there was really a 2. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of doing this like I was when we were like in elementary school or something like that. Here's 7, here's 2. So 2 goes into 7 3 times. That gives me 6. This is my remainder. So this 3 is the power on the outside. And the remainder is going to tell me how many x's I'm going to be left with on the inside. Okay? So look, let's do this problem the same way. Remember, the number here really is a 2. So I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 2 go into 13? Anybody know how many times 2 goes into 13? As close as we can get it to 13? 6. Perfect. There you go. Excellent, guys. So look, this is going to be 6. That's going to leave me with a 12. My remainder is going to be a 1, right? So what this means, this 6, that's the power of my x on the outside. And then this 1 is telling me how many x's I'm left with on the inside. Okay? And that's really all I got to do. Okay, so we do have a few more. I'm sorry, I thought we were almost done, but it's okay. We can run through these. So look, we're going to do the same thing here. Guys, all we're going to do, we're going to do it in pieces. So the square root of 36 is 6. Now remember what I'm doing with the 3. Taking 3 and dividing it by 2. Goes in once with a remainder of 1. So this 1 right here tells me how many a's I have on the outside. And this 1 right here tells me how many a's I have on the inside. Okay. All right, I'll do the same thing here. I know the square root of 81 is 9. Okay. Then I'm going to take 5 and I'm going to divide it by 2. So 2 goes into 5 twice with a remainder of 1. So again, this 2 is telling me how many b's I'm going to have on the outside. And this 1 tells me how many b's I'm going to have on the inside. Okay. All right, so look, let's see if we can break down 96. So 96, I know, is 2, and let me see. I'm going to take my calculator real quick, y'all. Let's see, 96 divided by 2. Oops, 96 divided by 2, 48. Okay. Divide this by 2, that's 24. Divide this by 2, that's 12. Divided by 2, it's 6. Divided by 2 is 3. Okay, so what I'm going to start doing now, I'm going to start getting my pairs. Look, that's 1 pair of 2s, 2 pair of 2s. So a 2 is going to come outside, another 2 is going to come outside. These guys are going to have to go back inside. So 2 times 3 is going to give me 6. And then, remember, the power here really is a 2. So how many times does 2 go into 4? 2 times, right? And then here, y'all, I'm just going to go ahead and multiply. So 2 times 2 is 4. So that's a 4x squared and a square root of 6. Okay. And again, all I'm doing is I'm just breaking my numbers down, okay? Remember, I'm looking for pairs, right? I'm looking for pairs. So look, let's do the same thing for the number 40. Okay. So 40 I know is 2 and 20, and 2 and 10, and 2 and 5. So it looks like we have 1 pair, so a pair of 2s will come out, or the 2 will come out. These guys aren't paired up, so they got to go back inside. That's a 10. And then one more time, the power here is a 2. So 2 goes in a 10 5 times, right? So my answer is 2y to the 5th and the square root of 10. Right. Okay, let's see if we can kind of keep working here. So look, I'm going to think about this as the square root of 10, I'm sorry, the square root of 12 over the square root of m squared. Okay, so let's do this in pieces. So guys, remember the number here really is a 2. So 2 goes into 2 one time. That's telling me how many m's I'm going to have on the outside. There was no remainder, so we don't need to worry about that. Now 12, I'm going to break down 12 into 2 and 6 and 2 and 3. So the 2 comes outside and the 3 stays indoors, right? Okay. So let's try the same thing here. Square root of 9x over square root of y to the 10th. Okay. So remember, the number right here, y'all, is a 2. So 2 goes in a 10. 5 times, it's a y to the 5th. Now, when I'm thinking about this guy here, I know the square root of 9 is 3. Because 9 is the same thing as 3 and 3, so we got a pair, so that 3 came outside. But I want you to notice there's only one x. And because there's only one x, that x has to stay indoors, right? I can't bring it out. All right. So I think these are the last two right here, guys, and then we'll call it a night here. But let's take a look. Square root of 175. So I'm going to divide this guy by 5. So let me go 175 divided by 5. That's 35. And then 35 is 5 and 7. So the number that's coming outside is the 5. And the number that's staying indoors, again, is the 7. And we'll do the same thing here for this last one, 24. So 24, I know, is 2 and 12, and that's 2 and 6, and that's 2 and 3. So we have a pair of 2s. So the 2 is going to come outside, but these guys got to go back indoors. And then remember, I'm taking the 2 and I'm dividing it into 7, right? So here's my 7, here's my 2. 2 goes into 7 3 times with a remainder of 1. So this power of 3 is telling me how many m's I'm going to have on the outside. And my remainder is going to tell me how many m's I'm going to have on the inside. Okay. All right. Let's see. Good. So guys, did this make sense, what we did here tonight? Did this stuff make any sense? Y'all feel okay? Yeah? Good. Perfect. Excellent. So look, guys, we just knocked out the first 2 sections, right? And we even did a problem from the homework from 15.2, whatever section is. I know I called it something else, but like simplifying radicals. So again, my point, y'all, is, you know, if you can knock out these 2 homeworks in the next couple of days, then you can definitely get started on the next one. The idea of getting pairs is really all you're doing in chapter 15, okay? So again, guys, one more time before I log off, just a couple of things I want to remind y'all of. So 2 things. Let me do this. Here we go. So let me share this real quick. Okay, here we go. And okay, now it's pulling up. So guys, just a reminder, all your assignments in my lab are open, and they're going to stay open until July the 8th, right? So that's the first thing I want to mention. Remember, for your quizzes, you have a total of 5 attempts. So if you didn't do well the first 2 times, you know you can still try it again. You still got 3 other shots. And then the second thing I wanted to share with you guys, and I know I already did this earlier, but I just want to make sure that you guys are good. So let's see. Here in the week 5, y'all, remember the final exam review is open. There's 40 questions. The final exam itself has 20. And then there's 2 dates you can choose from the final, and then you'll just click on the sign-in sheet, and then I'll provide you guys with the links next week, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. Guys, the only thing I want to mention is that, like, if you sign up for the 7th at 11 a.m., sign in as close to 11 a.m. as you can, okay? And I don't think it was in our class, but in one of my other classes, I had somebody who signed in like at 1:30 or something like that, and it's like, hey, I can't be waiting an hour and a half or 2 hours for you guys. So I don't think we had a problem with that, but just want to remind everybody, if it's at 11, sign in at 11. If it's at 6, sign in at 6, okay? And if you have an issue, guys, like if you're working or something like that, and you don't get out till 6 o'clock, and by the time you get home, message me, just let me know so that I can expect you a little later. I'm all good with that stuff. Just let me know. Alrighty, so anywho, that is it for us tonight, y'all. Thank y'all for coming in.